All right, one of the nice things about the Radium Catch can is that it's universal in the fact that you can use this application on any car. It's flow tested to make sure there's no PCV restrictions. And a lot of the better cans are application specific, right? So if you have a different barb size on the top and the sides, you can't use it for other vehicles. Well, they've solved this problem by having removable barbs, which makes it great to move it around to different vehicles. Now, obviously, the can's expensive, so you're going to want to reuse it, but you're going to have to pay for the barbs, which are about 20 bucks a piece, and I know that's going to be a huge turnoff for some people. I love the can, but I don't think it's as accessible for some people as you would like. But if you have the extra cash and you want a nice piece, this is the way it works. So I have my different size barbs. For the FRS, we have a 1/2 inch outlet barb, and this is actually the outlet that goes on the front. Okay, it just screws in the port, and you tighten it down later. Okay, and then the inlet port, this is where it goes from the PCV valve directly in here. It just screws in the top. All right, if we look inside the can here, you can see that there's these stainless steel filters that go in. These act kind of as your baffle, and this helps condense the oil. It comes with a stack of these, and according to Radium, you want to use as many without impeding airflow. Well, that's kind of, that's really hard to know. However, the longer the run of your PCV line, the less filters you need. So on my previous vehicle, I had about 20 inches of PCV line, and I used 2 screens, 2 of these stainless screens, and it worked perfectly. So with the FRS, we're going to be using a shorter run, so potentially you need another filter. So I'm going to start with 3 screens. There's already 2 in there, and then that's all you do is you push it down to the bottom. Make sure that it's flat in there, obviously, which it is. It's very easy to tell. So there we have it. We just installed the 3rd screen, and that's it for the screen part. Now, since this can is going to be more towards the top of the engine bay, we'll be able to actually use this oil dipstick. And this is how we'll tell when the actual can is registering oil. Now, you pull it out and there's a large amount of oil on there, then we know that we need to empty the can. So that's how you check the oil level, or you can just pull the bottom of the can off and pour it out, check it that way too. But it gives you a nice option. So once you have your barb screwed in and your filter installed in the can, it's as simple as just tightening down the barbs, which I used a protected, just a regular pair of pliers, and just to tighten them down. It doesn't need to be very tight. Once there's a rubber grommet on there, so it seals very nicely. Okay, so here's the can. You can drain it 2 ways. This bottom port, which is not going to be it's going to be very difficult to do on the FRS. So how we're going to drain it is once it's installed, it's going to be in a position like this. You get your hand under there, and it unscrews like a standard oil filter. It's very easy to remove. It's got a rubber grommet, so it seals nicely, and once the oil gets to it, it comes on and off like butter. You don't have to torque it down or anything. But here you can see the stainless steel filter screen at the bottom. This kind of acts as the baffle. For your outlet valve, obviously, you don't want oil getting back in there and going back out, so that prevents it. And then you have your can in here, which should be filling up with oil. Putting it back on is very easy. It's a extremely well-machined piece of hardware. Looks great, feels great, and it just is ready for the life of your car. If you do have any problems with it, I can guarantee you that Radium will fix or replace any issues if you do have any with it. Again, this is a piece that's been track tested and very well designed, so you can count on it working for the life of the car. Alright, so basically I have all the parts I need from Radium. I've got my PCV hoses, clamps, and everything. So the next step is just removing this plastic cover, which it just snaps off. There's 3 clips, 2 in the back, 1 in the front. Okay, so after you removed this plastic cover, this is the factory PCV hose. One end on the actual intake manifold is a 1/2 inch. The inlet, the inner diameter of this tube is a 1/2 inch. The PCV valve so it's 2 different sizes, which is fine. So you just need 2 different hoses, and then I just got 2 feet of each, and then you cut it down to size. Mounting the bracket that you made for the catch can is pretty easy. There's 2 10mm bolts right here, which I've already removed, for this air pump apparatus. And this is the actual bolt on the front that you're going to use to mount the bracket underneath. So once I remove this whole device will come off. You can see this is going to loosen the entire assembly here. So you can see the catch can starting to dip a little bit. But obviously I'm showing you in reverse, but I'm going to take this off here. As you can see, here's the semi-finished bracket, and the way that it's made here, it's aluminum, and the bracket is just slips right under here. As you can see there, the bracket slips under that hole, and then you just screw it down. But basically, that's how you get it to snake through. And it looks like so. The bracket, all you need is aluminum, a vise, and just to bend the aluminum a little bit, and that's all it takes. And there you are, the can is in place. I've tightened down the bolt just enough to get it where I want it. Now, I can reposition it as needed, but just get it where you want it, and then when you're all done, you can just tighten down that bolt really good. And now we're going to attach the tubes. I don't know if you're going to be able to see this or not, hopefully, but basically you're just going to attach a pre-cut tube to the actual intake manifold here. And it might be a little difficult to push it on there. You're going to have to work it just a little bit. But once it goes on, it will go on like butter. Of course, I got this. Come on. Just so you know, there was no hose clamp on here from the factory, so I'm not going to put one on there, as I don't think that it really needs it. But I am going to come back and probably use a hose clamp on the actual catch can. Alright, so now that you got the tube on, we're going to attach the tube to the intake. The actual outlet of the catch can, which goes on very easily. And this is probably something you're going to want to use hose clamps on, to be honest. So it goes on real nice without it, though, I'll tell you that. As you can see now, I've attached the outlet portion of the catch can to the outlet portion of the catch can to the actual intake manifold. Okay, so that's all there is to it. It goes on here very, very smoothly compared to the top. I'm probably going to use a hose clamp on here, but I'll just double check the connectivity. As you can see there's the PCV valve. Let's just give you a little overview of where it's at. right behind the plastic piece, so when we bring this tube back up, we can measure it out. You can see how it follows here. Very easy to get at. Okay, and there you have it. I just need to get my hose clamps installed once I get those in, but the install is complete. You can choose whatever hose clamps you want. The only thing I will say is I like the install. I think this is a good location, probably one of the few locations you can fit one of these in here, but it's low enough where you can see that the actual intake manifold, the tube's on a slight downward angle, so it's going to drain back any vapor back into the can. Ideally, it would be better if it was a little bit lower, and I might modify the bracket a bit, but I think this should be okay, and I will monitor to see, especially once it gets cold. It's in a good location in terms of heat, where the tubes are going to get some heat in them, so if there is moisture, it's not going to freeze or anything like that. But overall, the location looks good, and I'll keep you up to date in terms of how it's working.